Excel 2007, Collaborate Data. Here we are going to create an expense report spreadsheet that everybody on the team can add their information to. Because we're going to add just a few little summary formulas, we want to protect the workbooks. In other words, just allow editing in some of the cells. Once we do that, we'll be ready to share the data so everybody on the team can access this information. We want it to be a little bit pleasing on the eyes, so we'll insert an illustration to give it some visual appeal, and then we'll prepare it for distribution. In other words, we're going to publish this workbook out there so that our whole entire team can access the information. I've already opened up Microsoft Excel. We have a new book, and we're just going to start from scratch here to create an expense report. I want to be able to collect the name information, employee ID, and then we're going to gather some information regarding the expense report. We want the description. We want to know the dates. We want to know, was this for travel? Was this for lodging? Was this for meals? And of course, you could go on and on and on with the descriptions. I know the IRS actually has specific items. I'm just being pretty generic here. I'm going to double click to auto size that area. In fact, we could make that a little bit bigger. We can work with this just a tad here. And that's looking pretty good. We are going to want to give them some areas so they can add their information. So we will put some borders around this. We'll give them a couple cells where they can add their information, their first name. Bottom border would be fine. All right. We want to copy this format down so we could use our format painter. We could reapply, or we could autofill when we get that skinny black plus in the bottom right corner of the cell and click and drag. We get to choose what it is that we're autofilling. Let's just autofill the formatting only, and now we should have two cells that look like that. This would be nice to make a little bit bigger, wouldn't it? We'll go ahead and make that size 18, and our name and our ID, we can make that size 12. Notice how here in Excel it actually updates and shows you when you hover over something, like the font, what it will actually look like. I'm fine having it all be the same type of font. I showed you this before, but let's remove those grid lines. Go to the Page Layout tab, remove the check mark for view, and then the only items you see are the lines where people are going to make their edits, those special formatting lines that you added in on your own. Well, we want this to be able to have dates as a date format, so we can go back. So we can do this a number of ways. Right-clicking is one, or on the Home tab, we have Format. And from here, we can go into Format Cells. How do we want to format our dates? Well, how about we do it the old-fashioned way, just like that. All right, those are set up as dates. We want all of this information to have dollar values around that. We can, of course, use our Home tab right there in the number area. Do we want accounting number format? Sure. We could have just clicked that button just from scratch. We are, of course, going to want our totals to sum up the line items. We can use our sum wizard here. If we wanted to average or count, we could do that also, but sum is really the best way for us to do this here. I'll select those items and press enter on my keyboard. Could also click this check mark or click the auto sum button again. I'm going to go ahead and copy this down to the bottom. Just to make sure it worked, I'm going to select this cell to see what the formula is. C10 through E10. That looks good, C10 through E10. I could also double click where a formula is, and it really will select those cells. That's pretty nice. I'll click the X there so I'm not in edit mode anymore. And I believe this took our dollar formatting off, so I'll add it back. It would be nice to have an overall total, so I will add that here. What am I totaling? Nope, not everything. I just would like to total this information. Well, I would like this information to stand apart from everything else, so I'll change the background. How about to a light gray? I can change our overall totals to a darker gray so it stands out. I know gray is such a beautiful color. We can go ahead and give this a little bit of zing if we'd like to. The light blue's not too bad. Make the text bold, and we can center it there. All right. I wouldn't mind having this the ability to wrap text in case someone has to type a great deal of information. So I can choose Format, Format Cells again. Now I'm talking about alignment. I'd like the text to be able to wrap, and I'd like it to align to the top of the cell. Text direction context sounds good to me. As it's typed in there, I'd like it to remain. The Wrap Text button is also right up here under Alignment on the Home tab. Last thing I want to do as far as formatting goes is allow that to stand out a little bit by giving it the All Borders button. It's looking good here. I'm going to press Save. We'll call this Expense Report Collaboration. I guess I'll stick with the standard here and have spaces. It's going to save it as the default in Excel 2007, which is XLSX. And now we can see it has been saved. Our goal here is that our employees can add information. It will be totaled here, but we don't want them to actually put data in the totals field. We want to trust that our totals are really the addition of the line items here. So the first thing we do is select the range that we want to protect. In fact, we have to lock these items. On the Home tab, we can find this command in the cells grouping under the Format button. When I click the Format button, down at the bottom, I have Protection as a subgrouping, and I'll choose Lock Cell. This keeps people from making changes to them, but I'm going to have to then protect the sheet. It's telling me I have an error. That's what this exclamation mark means. I also have these little green triangles in the upper left-hand corner of my cells, indicating that it's not 100% perfect. Let's check it out. The cell contains a formula and is not locked to protect it from being changed inadvertently. I'm going to choose to lock the cell. At this point in time, I haven't protected my sheet, so people can still make additions. I'll show you. $20 for travel. Well, good, our formula works, but I could change this to $30. Sweet. I just made an extra $10. I'm going to click Undo twice. So I locked the cells. Now I must protect them. I'll go back to the Format button, and now I'll choose Protect Sheet. What is it that I'd like to protect? These are the items that I can allow changes to be made to. Let's start at the top though. The check box here, the check mark in Protect Worksheet and Contents of Locked Cells, it has to have a check in it. Notice I could select OK, but if I remove this check mark, I cannot select OK. So I have to have this checked. Perhaps someday Microsoft will add on to this dialog box. I'll come back to this password to unprotect sheet. Right now, I'm going to leave it blank. Allow users of the worksheet to select locked cells. No, they don't even need to select them. Select unlocked cells. Yep, I want them to be able to select and edit those. Do I want them to be able to format anything? No. Insert anything? No, but this really goes with your overall plan. If it was the type of spreadsheet where it would make sense for them to insert columns or rows, sure, I'd put a check mark in there. Then they could insert rows. I don't want that. Do I want them to delete information? No. Sort or autofilter? Well, that's really not the point of this spreadsheet. I don't have pivot tables. I don't have any objects like charts or illustrations for them to edit or edit scenarios. I don't have any scenarios. This looks good. I have one item selected and no password. I'll click OK. Now let's test it out. Travel, $25 spent on travel. Ooh, look, I can't select this total now. When I double click on cell F9, which is a total, it actually puts me in edit mode for C10. It's pretty cool. Can I format these items? Nope. Format cells? Nope, not a possibility. It's all grayed out here, so it worked. The only thing that can happen is selecting and editing in these cells. That's perfectly fine. It takes those edits. Those are perfect. Here's the thing though. If I go to the Review tab, I could click Unprotect Sheet. And now I can get in here and change this to $35. Absolutely no problem whatsoever. So, in other words, I went through all the trouble to lock cells and protect the sheet, but anybody who opens this spreadsheet can unprotect it and do what it was I didn't want them to do. So let's go back and add a password. I'm going to click Undo, and I'll just ignore this error for now. And I will add a password. Here I can click Protect Sheet. It's the same thing as going to the Home tab to the Format area. Either way, remember that's on the Review tab, Protect Sheet. Now I do want a password to unprotect the sheet. I will have password as my password, Password. That's a weak password. I would recommend, if you're really setting a password, that you do a strong password, one that you'll remember, of course, but one that will have a combination of capital letters or numbers or characters so that it really will be a password that will protect your information. I'll choose OK. Re-enter the password, Password. Let's read this. Caution, if you lose or forget the password, it cannot be recovered. Yeah, you have to just delete that file and start from scratch. It's advisable to keep a list of passwords and their corresponding workbook and sheet names in a safe place. Remember that passwords are case sensitive. Where would you keep that safe place? Well, you could write them down on a piece of paper and stick them under your keyboard, but everybody else would be able to find that. I like to actually have a file on my computer where I type all my names and passwords, and for web pages to the URLs, usernames, passwords, and then I password protect that file. Password protecting a file is an option in the Microsoft Office Save As dialog boxes. That way I have to remember one password, but then I can get access to all my other passwords. It really enhances the security of my system and my sensitive information. I'll choose OK. Now let's test it out. Has this been protected? Travel, $60. Awesome. $60. Oh, I can't edit my totals. Unprotect sheet. Yeah, you can unprotect it if you have the password, which is password, Password. Okay. Still throwing me that error. Now I can make this change. All right. Very good. I would like to add some more locked cells to this. I don't want people to change expense report. I don't want them to change their name and their employee ID. So notice, if I want to select more than one range at once, I can't. So that's where the Control button comes in. I'll select expense report, press Control, name, employee ID, this row of items. I've already locked these, so I shouldn't have to select them, but I will just for the sake of consistency, and I don't want people to update those as well. So I've selected the ranges that I'd like to lock. Now I need to go back and lock these items. Of course, I can use that button. I want to show you, you can also right-click on a selected cell and choose Format Cells. From here, I have Protection as a tab. We've been in this dialog box before. You might recall number, alignment. All these items are here, as well as protection. I want to make sure that these cells are locked, but it tells me again, locking cells or hiding formulas has no effect until you protect the worksheet on that Review tab under Protect Sheet button, which we've seen previously. I'll choose OK. Let's test it out. 150. Whoops, yep, I can make that change. Control Z on my keyboard to undo it. Now let's go ahead and protect this sheet. Review tab, Protect Sheet. I'm going to skip the password since we understand that already, and it just will save us time in the long run. And I will allow Format Cells, though, to be active. I'll choose OK. Let's test it out. $35. That updates. Can I edit these? Nope. Can't edit these. Can I edit this? Nope. What about up here? Nope, 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 nope. Yes. Remember, we did now choose that formatting is available in the unlocked cells. Let's test it out. And select these items. I'll go back to my Home tab. And I can change the color if I want to. So to summarize, first you have to put a plan of attack in place. Then you select the cells. Then you choose the lock command, and then you protect your sheet. Let's go ahead and unprotect this sheet now. Back to the Review tab, Unprotect Sheet. And I'd like to insert a nice little image right here to make this a pleasing expense report. So I'll select where to insert that image. I'll go to the Insert tab on the ribbon, and I will choose Picture, which could actually be a bitmap or a JPEG that you've taken from your camera. Perhaps it's something you downloaded from the web. You could go to clip art, which is something that comes installed with Microsoft Excel, but there are other clip art libraries out there on the web. I could add just a crazy shape if I wanted to, or some smart art. Maybe I want to show a segmented cycle or an org chart. Doesn't make sense here. I'll click Cancel, and we'll just insert some clip art. Now it's chugging because it has to find my clip art collections. Search for, maybe I have a certain item I'd like to search for. How about money? Search in, I'll allow it to search everywhere, but I could be more specific. Do you want to include thousands of additional clip art images and photos from online when you search? No, I don't. Thousands sounds a little bit too much. You might want to do that on your own time to see what's out there. See, I don't have all that many, which is fine with me. I'm going to click the X here to close that clip art area. And now I have a piece of clip art that's just floating on top of everything. I'm going to resize this. I'll just put it right there. If I wanted to insert another image, I could go to my Insert, I could choose Picture, and now it's going right to my pictures, but of course you could access anywhere on your own computer, or if you're connected to a network, maybe you have a location where your company logos are stored or something like that. I'll just insert this fish bitmap. I'll choose Insert. Notice I could link it to the file, which means that it won't actually be stored in my Excel spreadsheet, but you'll be able to see it from my spreadsheet. I don't recommend linking to files if you have a lot of people that will be accessing this information from outside of your office. Also, well, because they won't be able to probably get to that source file. Also, if you've got your security set up in Excel, then it will tell you that there's something linked in it. It throws up red flags for Excel. So now I have a bitmap that doesn't make any sense at all, and I've got a piece of clip art. Notice when I select these items, I now have picture tools with a new ribbon, the Format ribbon. I could make all sorts of changes to this information. We'll come back to this in a later nugget. In fact, I'm going to delete this fish. I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to click Save for now. Let's go to the Review area. Check it out. It's not protected, so I'll click Protect Sheet. I'll remove the check mark from Format Cells. I'll put a password back in here. Password again. Okay, password again. Okay. Now it's protected. And notice I didn't have to go through and lock everything all over again. What was locked before remains locked. What was not locked before remains editable. I'm going to save this again. I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. Select, delete on my keyboard, save. And I want a few other employees to be able to access this before I share it. So I'm going to copy this sheet a couple times so I can reuse it. One way I can do that is to right-click on Sheet, choose Move or Copy, choose Create a Copy. Okay. Now I have it in 2 places. Another way you can do this is to press Control on your keyboard while you drag and drop. Notice that little plus is indicating I'm copying. Control again, copy it over 1. So I'd have to know my employees' names. Maybe I have Andrew. Maybe I have Nancy. Maybe I have Ann. Maybe I have Fred. And these are blank ones that I'm actually going to delete out of here. Now I have my employees. They all have similar expense reports. At this point in time, though, they are not going to be able to all be in this file at the same point in time. So I need to share this workbook. I can click Share Workbook here, and it tells me that I'm logged in as training, have exclusive access to this workbook. If anybody else were to try to get in here, they wouldn't. They could open it as read-only, but they couldn't make changes. So I need to choose Allow Changes by more than 1 user at the same time. This also allows workbook merging. I'll choose OK. It will now save the workbook. Do I want to continue? I sure do. All right, now it's shared. I can click on Share Workbook again, and I can see that it is being shared, and anybody else could see that as well now. If Andrew or Ann had this open, I'd see their names in the list here, and if I knew that I needed to get in there and modify, change some formulas, something like that, I could actually select the users and then click on Remove User. If I were to click on Remove User, they wouldn't have access to saving that document anymore. So I would recommend actually throwing them a phone call, an email, an instant message, something to say, you know what, I'm going to make some edits. Could everybody save their work and close out? That's just for workflow. The tool will let you do the remove users. I'll choose OK again. Notice we have this command, Protect Shared Workbook. We could do this all at once, what we were doing before. And I could even share this with Track Changes. This prevents the change history from being removed. Passwords may be added if the workbook is unshared at the time of protection. Remember, we shared it, so that's why we have this password area grayed out. Now, Track Changes is something that is greatly collaborative, and we're going to cover that in a later nugget as well. But the idea is if you want to keep your initial information but also retain modifications from people, you can track the changes, and then with various highlights, you know, hey, this has been changed. However, I get to compare it back to that base information to see if that change is really something that I want to accept. I'm going to click Cancel here. At this point in time, my spreadsheet looks pretty good. I have the sheets in here that I want added. I don't want any new worksheets added. I've got each one of these sheets protected from data changes, and I have my workbook ready to go. The last thing I want to do, though, is to protect my workbook. I want to restrict access by preventing new sheets from being created or by granting access only to specific people. If I choose to protect workbook, now I'm protecting editing overall. And who do I want to allow in here? Maybe I want unrestricted access. Maybe I want to specifically choose who can come in and read information or who's able to actually make changes. Again, this is where you have to have that plan in place, and you have to remember that you put this plan in place so if you ever have to troubleshoot, well, why can't this one member of my team who just joined our organization not make changes or open it, but everybody else can? I'm ready to prepare this for distribution now. I'm going to go to my Office button in the upper left-hand corner and choose Publish. When I choose Publish, I have some options. The key here is knowing what you have on your network. If you don't have Excel services installed, if you don't have a document management server, then you're not going to be able to publish up there. The idea is Office 2007 greatly integrates with something called SharePoint Server. That's another Microsoft product. It costs more money, but it allows you to really collaborate among all the various people in your environment up there on a network share. They can all have their own portals. You can combine pieces of information. You can set up permissions so not everybody can access everything, but maybe you want everybody to be able to see specific reports and specific information. That's outside the scope of these nuggets here. I just want you to be aware that that could be an overall business solution in your enterprise environment. So if I did have these items installed, I could select them, and I'd want to throw this in an area that makes sense within my organization. My Excel services option now is in here, and I get to choose, well, what do I want available in the browser? And what does that mean? That means my people can go into our intranet website via Internet Explorer and be able to see just specific information. Here I can even allow just specific cells to be editable when I'm using Excel services. If I go back here, back to publish, I could also choose to publish it to a document management server. This would be a typical file server on your network environment. This is the Save As dialog box. It is the exact same thing as going here and choosing Save As. It's just a matter of you going and choosing a network location. Also in this Publish area, I could choose to create a document workspace, which allows me to have a new site for my workbook, but keep this local copy synchronized. In other words, anytime I open it up here locally on my C drive, for example, those changes will be updated with the workspace. Why is this good for me? Well, if I were to remove my laptop from the network, for example, and go home or be on an airplane or travel, something like that, I could make changes locally, and then when I hook back up into my networked environment, the local copy of the document will be synchronized with the server automatically, or I can control how often it is synchronized. So this is very nice. That means I won't have a couple different versions of my expense reports sitting out there where I'll wonder, ooh, which one is the current item? I'm going to click the X there. So let's review what it was that we covered in this nugget. We made sure to select cells and lock them. Then we were able to protect our sheet. Locking the cells alone does not protect your information. You need to also protect the sheet. You can add a password if you'd like, and then you can also protect the overall workbook. Until you choose to share your information, only one person can edit it at a time. The rest can open this as read-only. We just added a teeny bit of visual appeal by inserting a picture and a clip art item. And we also prepared it for distribution by selecting our Office button and choosing the Publish command. Of course, you can also choose the Save As. The key to preparing it for distribution is having an infrastructure set up so that you know where it is you're going to place this file so that you can distribute it. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.